Grants are an important tool for Main Street programs. They help fund projects, support planning efforts, and build capacity. But grants work differently from other types of funding. If you're new to the process, it's important to understand how grants are structured, what funders are looking for, and where to find the opportunities that best fit your goals. In this video, you'll learn about the types of grants available to Main Street organizations, including state, federal, corporate, and foundation funding. We'll also walk through common grant terms and what most applications require, so you're prepared to take the next step with confidence. How grants work. A grant is money awarded for a specific purpose, usually tied to a timeline, a defined scope of work, and a clear set of outcomes. Most grants are designed to fund capital improvements, programs, events, planning studies, or technical assistance. They are not general operating support unless explicitly stated, which means you typically cannot use them to cover salaries, rent, or overhead. When you accept a grant, you are entering into an agreement to deliver a project as outlined in your proposal. You'll be expected to track how the funds are spent and submit documentation, such as receipts, invoices, photos, or written updates that proves the work was completed as promised. That's why it's important to plan first, fund second. Don't chase dollars without a clear strategy. Grants are not designed to fix a budget shortfall, and applying for funding without a well-defined project can lead to confusion, scope creep, and misaligned priorities. In some cases, receiving a grant can actually create more work for a team that's already stretched thin, especially if the project requires reporting, coordination, or execution beyond your current capacity. Before you apply, make sure the grant aligns with your work plan and that your team can realistically deliver the promised outcomes. Thoughtful planning not only increases your chances of getting funded, it also ensures that your program can follow through with success. Types of grant funding available to Main Street programs. State grants. Maryland's Department of Housing and Community Development offers programs like Community Legacy, Strategic Demolition, and Operating Assistance for Main Street programs. These can fund capital improvements, event infrastructure, planning, and more. The Maryland Heritage Areas Authority supports projects that promote heritage tourism, storytelling, and preservation. This may include signage, trail systems, historic interpretation, or events. The Maryland Historic Trust funds preservation-related work, such as historic structure reports, condition assessments, and building rehab. Federal grants. USDA Rural Development is a potential source of significant funding for Main Street programs, particularly in rural communities. They support a wide range of initiatives, including downtown revitalization, small business development, broadband access, and improvements to community facilities. These programs can fund large-scale projects that may be out of reach for other grant sources. However, it's important to know that USDA grants and loans are highly competitive and often involve a detailed, sometimes complex, application process. Applications should be prepared for rigorous documentation requirements and a longer review timeline. These opportunities are best pursued when you have a clear project plan, strong community support, and the internal capacity to manage the administrative demands that come with federal funding. The Economic Development Administration. EDA funds planning and capital projects that support long-term regional economic development. These grants typically require a high level of coordination, strong data, and a clear demonstration of economic impact, such as job creation, business growth, or infrastructure improvements. To be eligible for EDA funding, projects must be located in areas the agency considers economically distressed and be aligned with a comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, or CEDS, developed by a regional planning council. If your project isn't included in your region's CEDS, it likely won't qualify for support. Because of this, it's important to build relationships with your regional council early, understand your area's strategic priorities, and explore whether your Main Street project can help advance those shared goals. Corporate grants. Banks, energy companies, and large employers often support local initiatives through corporate giving programs. These grants commonly fund efforts tied to workforce development, entrepreneurship, beautification, or community wellness. In particular, banks may have Community Reinvestment Act obligations, which requires them to invest in initiatives that benefit low and moderate income communities, making Main Street programs a strong fit. Corporate grant applications are often shorter and less formal than government grants, but they still require a clear project description, budget, and follow-up reporting. Building relationships with local corporate partners can open doors to repeat support, in-kind contributions, and long-term collaboration. Private foundations. Private foundations vary widely in their focus areas. Some support arts and culture, historic preservation, local food systems, or small business ecosystems. Others fund general community development, especially projects that demonstrate broad community benefit and equity. Foundation grants may be highly competitive or invitation only, so it's important to review their funding priorities carefully to ensure your project is a good fit. To find potential funders, start by researching foundations that have previously funded similar projects in your region. A great first stop is your local community foundation, if one exists. Community foundations often have grant programs that support place-based initiatives and can also help connect you with other philanthropic partners. Online tools like Candid's Foundation Directory or GuideStar can also be helpful for identifying potential matches. As with any funder, the key is to understand their goals and make a thoughtful case for how your project advances them. Understanding common grant terms and application components. As you begin applying for grants, you'll come across a few key terms that are important to understand upfront. One is the letter of interest, sometimes called an LOI. This is a brief summary of your project that some funders ask for before inviting a full application. Think of it as a first impression, your opportunity to show that your project fits within their priorities. Another term you'll see is indirect costs. These are administrative or overhead expenses that support the project but aren't tied to a specific activity, like office, rent, utilities, or bookkeeping. Some grants allow you to include a flat indirect cost rate, while others may require detailed justification. Fringe benefits refer to the cost of employee benefits, such as health insurance or retirement contributions. These should be included in the personnel section of your budget if you're requesting support for staff time. You'll also want to understand match or cost share requirements. Some grants ask you to contribute additional funds or non-cash resources to the project. That could mean money from another source, volunteer hours, donated materials, or in-kind services. In-kind support, by the way, refers specifically to those donated goods, time, or services that help complete the project but aren't purchased directly with grant funds. Now let's talk about what goes into completing a grant application. Most funders will ask for several core components, and it's essential to get each one right. The project narrative, your most critical section. The project narrative is the heart of your application. It's when you explain what you plan to do, why it matters, and how you'll do it. A strong narrative outlines the problem you're addressing, who it impacts, what activities you will undertake, what your goals are, and how success will be measured. Think of your narrative as telling a story, but with structure. A helpful framework you can follow is the problem, solution, impact model. Start with the problem or need. What challenge are you addressing in your Main Street district? Why is it urgent or timely? Then, describe your solution. What exactly will your program or project do? Be specific about the activities involved and who will benefit. Finally, highlight the impact. What do you expect to achieve? How will this funding create change, support revitalization, or advance your broader mission? Make your narrative focused and grounded in reality. Funders are more likely to support well-planned projects than vague ambitions. Avoid jargon. Include local data or success stories if they help make the case. Budget narrative and work plan. Your budget should clearly break down how the funds will be used. This may include categories like personnel, supplies, travel, equipment, marketing, or professional services. Every dollar should be accounted for and align with what's described in your narrative. Accompanying the budget is the budget narrative, which provides a brief explanation for each line item. Think of it as answering the question, why this cost, and how did you calculate it? Most funders also ask for a timeline or work plan, which lays out when different project activities will take place and when major milestones will be achieved. Even if your project is only a few months long, showing that you've thought through the timing helps demonstrate that your team is prepared. Organizational information. This part of the application shows that your organization is capable of managing the project and the funds. You'll usually need to include your nonprofit status, such as a 501c3 letter, a list of board members, a recent annual budget, and potentially your strategic plan. It's also helpful to include a clear and concise description of your mission and vision, an overview of the services you provide, and a few recent accomplishments. This helps funders understand who you are, what you do, and how you've been successful in the past. Letters of support and community buy-in. Some grants require letters of support. These should come from partners, elected officials, or other community stakeholders who are familiar with your work and who can speak to the value of your project. A strong letter reinforces the idea that your organization is trusted, collaborative, and part of a larger ecosystem. Grant writing takes time and attention to detail, but done well, it can unlock transformational resources for your Main Street program. The key is to approach each application with intention. Know your project, understand the funder's priorities, and tell a clear story that connects the two. Don't start with the funding, start with the plan. A focused, mission-aligned project backed by strong data and community support is what makes a proposal competitive. Everything else builds from there. In closing, grants are a powerful resource, but they can take preparation. Understanding the types of funders, knowing the terms, and being ready with the core components of a strong application will put you in a better position to secure support. This week, review 1 or 2 grant programs that align with your district's goals. Start by outlining what you might apply for, when the deadlines are, and what documents you'll need to prepare.